if you ask me to define Airfix by one of its kits, this would be the kit I chose. It's a classic kit and probably the mother of all their classic kits. Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and today I have got probably Airfix's defining kit. It has largely been listed continually since this came out. It's still on their website today. You can still buy it today, but I would not do, and we will come to that soon when we start talking about this. But yeah, this is for me one of Airfix's absolute defining kits. Now, you could say that a model of a Spitfire defines Airfix because they've produced so many of them. But the reality is there's lots of different ones. This is quintessentially what Airfix is all about. It's about producing primarily British subjects, doing them really well with lots of thought, and thinking about the modeler, not just how to put the kit together. Now, over the years, there's been times when Airfix has drifted from that, with its change of ownership and change of fortunes and things like that. But Airfix quintessentially is a British model manufacturer that focuses primarily on British subjects, and they do them very, very well, and they have never done them as well as they're doing them today. However, this kit was definitely not produced today. Now, I bought this, well, I say bought it, I was given this as a present. I don't really remember whether it was birthday or Christmas, but I think it was Christmas. And I built it, and I think I was given this particular one. I'm not 100% sure, and if you look on ScaleMates, you won't find this particular blue version on there. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the kit and then why you should be looking for one of these older ones and not the current vintage classic re-release. So my dad got me this kit for Christmas, I think around about 1979, 1980, that sort of time. When I built it and I finished it, I built it without the sails, without rigging it, so just the plastic parts, the hull, the masts, and the yards and so on. I don't think I even put flags on. I just built and painted the plastic parts. And the one thing I really remember was my dad commenting on what a great job I'd made of painting the stern gallery there. And I had that model on display on my shelf for many, many years. I was very proud of it. And then eventually you get to the point where you look at it and think, actually, I could have done a much better job. And then with moving house and girlfriends and getting married and having kids and all that sort of stuff, what actually happens is the model disappears somewhere, and I don't remember exactly what happened to it. I had 3 tall ship models. I had this, I had the Man of War, and I had the Revell re-release of the Merit Chinese junk that I think was first produced around about 1955. So those were the 3 sort of tall ships that I had for many years. And I properly enjoyed building the HMS Victory. I've been and seen the Victory many times, and my grandfather had a spell serving on HMS Victory, where they used to take, because he used to do some young cadet training, and they'd take young cadets on there and have them climb in the rigging and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, he used to do some training on the Victory. So it meant quite a bit to me, the kit, and I had it for many, many years. Now, I don't remember which box version I had. It could have been this. It could have been a later. I know it wasn't the 80s white box version. I know it was one of the earlier ones than that. Now, currently, you can get this kit. It's nearly £40 from the Airfix website. If you shop around on eBay, you can get them cheaper. I've picked this one up on eBay, and I've fallen really, really lucky. I would say the average price of these kits is somewhere between £25 and £50, depending on the condition. This one was in lovely condition. It was all still in its bags. No parts had come off the sprues, and I got it from a charity shop through eBay for £9.99 plus postage. So I landed a real bargain. I've been after this for a little while because I revisited this around the same time as I did the Ark Royal that I recently shared on a video. I got this, but I got the much later. I can't remember if it was what. I think it was a red box version. So re-released in the early 2000s, and I ended up throwing it away because, quite frankly, it was no longer buildable. The masts and the yards are so delicate in this kit that the molding tools so worn that they were massively deformed. Huge amounts of sink in it. It was just it was beyond just cleaning up the parts. It was a mess. But also how tired the tool is meant that a lot of the detail in here was being lost. It lost its sharpness. It just wasn't the kit I remember, and there was, even for someone of my ability and experience, it was just more than I wanted to take on. So I ended up binning it. So I've been on a mission looking more recently, last couple of months, looking for a really good old version. So I would recommend, if you want one of these kits, that you look for an older version, one of these boxings or earlier, perhaps a 60s produced one, where all the moulding will be nice and crisp and almost as it was when it was new, because the ones that you get now, they're just not worth it. They really aren't. And if there is any kit that Airfix should completely retool and do again, it is this, because it must sell in it bucket loads, and you know, with their modern technology, CAD design in it, with all the changes that have been discovered and the corrections that have been made to the actual ship, then they could do something absolutely stunning with HMS Victory these days. But they don't. They keep chucking out this, and it's beyond its sell-by date if you buy it brand new. So I recommend trying to find an old version. Now we're going to go through this, and we're going to have a look at all the parts, and we'll talk you through some of the things that you need to do to change this. And then later on we'll do a little aftermarket video on this as well. So I received this yesterday and went through it to have a look at what I got, and since then I have done a lot of repacking it. So this is not as it was when it came to me. We've cut some of the sprues off their tree runners and so on, so that we can wrap it, because this is such a delicate kit, and it's the thing that makes it one of the most beautiful, iconic kits that Airfix have ever made. Right then, let's have a look at the box. Now, I cannot establish what year this came out. I can't establish anything about this Blue Label series. So if you know when this came out roughly or definitely, I'd love to know. Leave a comment, tell me about it, because I've had a good look at the instructions in the box and I cannot see a date at all on this. There is nothing about this version on Scalemates. So simply, I'm not sure what year this was. I think this is a 70s release, because when you look at Scalemates, there's a gap between 60s and 80s, and I know it was constantly being chucked out. So I think this is a 70s version. Right then, let's get stuck in properly, shall we? So this is the original box art. They've chucked it out many times. They have done a different version of the box art, but for me, this is the classic. Shows the ship in action. You've got what appears to be a Spanish ship and a French ship, so not quite sure which battle they're depicting, I wonder. But it also shows some of the flags that you're probably going to get in the kit. You've got the sails there, which look lovely. I mean, the artwork is really great. You've got some sailors in action as well. All of these gun ports open, and the most colourful end of the Victory, the stern gallery. Now, this is based on an earlier version of the Victory Museum, pretty much as she was as she went into dry dock in the 20s. Now, the Victorians replaced the masts with metal masks. So the masts that are on the Victory now are not the original masts. I mean, obviously, she was demasted quite heavily at Trafalgar. I think she had to be towed back, didn't she? But also, things like these bits here are no longer on the Victory now. Even the logo has been rewritten correctly. The only thing that is not really known is this. So this decoration here is still on, only because they're not sure what was actually on. They know that this is later than Trafalgar, but they don't know exactly what it was. So they keep on something that they know is original, but they just don't know when. Also, if you go around the ship today, all the upper decks are incorrect. Not in their arrangement so much, but the actual wood and the planking of the deck. It should be oak deck. If you go down to third or fourth deck down, they've got some original oak deck there, which are big wide planks, to be honest, and that's what should be on the top. But she actually had the upper decks replaced with teak from one of the Royal Yachts. When they were scrapping one of the Royal Yachts, they replaced Victory's deck with it, which has made it nice and hard wearing for the huge amount of footfall she gets every year and exposed to the elements. And of course, she is a working ship in the Navy still, so they hold dinners and all sorts of events on her. So yeah, just be careful when you're looking at reference materials is where I'm getting to, because we know that she didn't have these boat slinging points. I mean, when I built it originally, I put one of the ship's boats hanging off the back. We know that that's not correct. Same with these here, that they were later additions post Trafalgar. So if you want to model Victory at her most iconic moment in time, Battle of Trafalgar, Death of Nelson, and so on, then you're going to have to make some alterations to the kit. And there's other alterations as well, which we will talk about. Anyway, the artwork is beautiful. It's this classic series Blue Label that I don't know anything about. Like I say, if you do, please say. On the sides, we get an advert for one of their other models, the Royal Sovereign. It says, for best results, use Airfix adhesive and paints, and then it lists you what those paints are. So the old Humbrol number system, M6, so black matte number 6, white gloss number 3, buff matte 14, brown gloss 9. I think I've still got one of those. Ivory matte 4, copper gloss 12, red gloss 1, blue gloss 6, and gold gloss 7. I will be building this and painting it in her more recently discovered accurate colours for Trafalgar, which are like a sandy salmon colour instead of yellow ochre, and a dark slate grey rather than black. She looks stunning in those colours. I've visited her 2 or 3 times in those colours during the restoration, and she looks stunning. On this other side, we have an Endeavour advert and a bit less information, and then our 2 ends are exactly the same. I can't get that up to the camera easily, but there you go. And it basically says the kit number is 09252-6, made in England, catalogue number 902, and it's a classic series 9. So that's the box. Right, when we open the box, I have repacked this because the parts are so very delicate, and I was really, really lucky that in actual fact none of the parts had come away from the trees at all. So I had no loose parts in the bag. That is saying something, given I think this kit is an early 70s to mid 70s release. So what we're going to do is we're going to unpack this and look at the parts as I unpack them, and we're going to start with this. Now, when you get a modern kit, this is bright white, so I don't know whether this is just naturally yellowed over the years or whether it was produced in this colour to make it look like the sails were not quite as bright white. I got to say, I really like it in this colour because when you put a wash on it and do a little stain on it, it's gonna look awesome, you know. And they're in such good condition. There's no deterioration of the plastic at all. There's no damage to the vac form. You know, it is pretty much as it originally was. And what we can do is we can do some great things by gluing some rope onto where they've depicted ropes. We can glue some little bits of string on to make it look very, very authentic. Yeah, that is in such good condition, isn't it? So yeah, very, very, very nice. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's as the day it was sold. So I am made up with the condition of this kit. Now what I've done with the rest of the kit is I have wrapped it all in tissue paper, with the exception of the 2 hull halves, but you can see everything's in tissue paper. So I need to get these parts out one at a time, and we'll take them out, have a look and talk about them. So let's kick off with our instructions. We have a very different format than the more usual modern format that we review on here. We've got the really old Airfix logo there, which reflects its 1965 new kit release. So it tells us that we've got HMS Victory. It gives us a little bit of history in different languages, and then we've got some general points at the bottom there, and then something specific for this particular kit. The use of tweezers is recommended for locating small parts and the 12-pounder guns to the top deck. Okay. Now the actual instruction manual itself is a gatefold single sheet, so to be able to get this all in camera is a little tricky, but we'll start with step 1. Now you notice there isn't a key of any particular type. It just says round circle means cement, so basically gluing all these parts together. Don't remember that there's any moving parts on this, so I think you're fixing everything together. So the old-fashioned instructions where you've got multiple steps all encased with one, and you've got to work out what's the best process for moving through those. And clearly you're putting the parts on the decks before you put the decks in, you know, so it's not difficult to work out. Even as a kid, it was fairly easy to work out. But we've got a stand here. We've got the two full halves of the fuselage. Then we've got the upper gun deck where we have the ship's boats, and then we've got the lower gun deck below that. And just because you can peer down through this section, which so you can see this, they've also put the ladders in for there. Now notice there is no paint instructions on any of this at this moment in time, so you're going to have to do your work. But what we do know is that pretty much everything that's wooden is a dark sort of mahogany type of wood effect. More recently, during the restoration of Victory, they have discovered different wall paints than they thought were the case. So some of the decks when you walk around Victory are painted yellow ochre on the inside, and they're now established that actually they should have been are painted white, and they've now established should have been painted yellow ochre. I think it's that way around. So it's worth checking the most up-to-date references you can, and there is a site, I think on the Victory page of the Portsmouth Historic Dockyard site, there is some references for paint instructions for model kits, as I remember. I've not checked it recently, but it was certainly there 2 or 3 years ago. So we're putting in the posts, and we're putting in the access to the toilets at the front of the ship there. So we've got some little hatches and bits and pieces. So there's some delicate painting to be done before that is installed, because you've got the French blue, you've got the yellow ochre, and you've got some reds and various other bits and pieces going on there first. You're going to have to paint your decks. However you're going to do that, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And actually you can paint a good proportion of the hull before you put it together as well, if you choose to. So there's quite a bit of painting we can do in step one there. And you can see that they level up that deck there. They've got some little ribs that you can mount it on. And as I remember, it all fitted fairly well, depending on how straight your decks are. They're notorious for having a bit of warpage, these older kits. Right, then we are going to step 2. Let me just fold that back. So step 2 is all about the cannons. So you're running through the cannons through all of these openings on this deck here. 2 parts. You've got the carriage and the cannon separate. So you can do some nice detail painting of those. The carriages, I think, are yellow ochre, and then you've got natural wood trucks on there, and then your cannons themselves should be a metallic black type colour, as should cannonballs or anything else that's metal black. It's all the same colour, but I wouldn't do matte 33 for everything that's black, because the wood black is slightly different to the metal black. It's matte, whereas the metal black should be more a satin semi-gloss sort of cover. So cannons going on. At this scale, difficult to rig them. Not impossible, but it'd be very, very time consuming. And got to be honest, I probably won't. Then we're putting the carronades on. We've got 2 of those at the front. There would normally be 2 additional cannons that are inboard facing forward, basically stowed, and they could be wheeled out if needs be. And the coronades, although they're placing them there, showing them pointing at an angle, they are designed to have face out of that side opening there. You can see that little drop there, that's where the carronade points out, or facing forward. So basically it's a more heavy artillery piece. Step 4, and we're putting in the various bulkheads here for the stern area of the ship. These were all on hinges and could be hinged up and moved when in action, and you usually have a cannon stowed in there as well, but there's no clear parts or anything, so it's just detail painting of that. And again, recently the colours of that have been re-established, as have everything inside. There's more sort of pink, Edwardian sort of pinks and blues in there, funnily enough. So some of the harsher whites and stuff have been replaced with some pastel blues and greens, which I believe they found by removing layers of paint have got down to the period and understood what was there. So that's really great as well. We're putting the ship's wheel in. If you want a little bit more authenticity on there, a little bit of gold markings on there, there's actually a sort of like a wreath on it that says HMS Victory in it, but you might be able to pick out a little bit of detail there, and a little bit of rope wrapped around the centre bit, and drill a couple of holes in and put your rope through the holes, because that's how it actually worked. So that'll add something, although there will be a deck going on top at certain angles. You would be able to see that. Then we have this part that's going in, which looks very, very thin, as it's actually a case which has got some of the navigation equipment stored in it. So then we've got some bits going in there at the base of the mast there for tying off. That you would have had a row of wooden posts and things in there for tying off. Then I know the name, but it's escaping me at the moment. Then step 5, we're building the ship's bell in its tower. So that's a nice little detail. You can paint that. That's what the gold paint will be for. But you can paint that up in some nice colours as well. And then just in front of it is the chimney from the stove for the kitchen, which is directly below it. Yeah, so that will be a metal black as well. Then what we're on that, step 5. So step 6, and we're back on the bow of the Victory. So we've got the hawse pipe parts going in. So they're quite prominent, big chunky pieces. And then you've got the side pieces for they also have a name that escapes me. A lot of detail painting on there as well. So it's not just one colour. You've got pipe work around the edges and all sorts. So depending on your skill and ability, you've got yellows, blues, and blacks on there. You can really make that pop out if you know what you're doing and take your time with a steady hand. You could make that look really cool. Step 7, and we're putting the stern galleries on, and we've got our knees there, which are nice. We've got our skylight there, more bits, and then the ladders for that. Now, if the ladders we've got are as chunky as that, you want to thin them down a little bit because they're not that chunky on the real ship. I've been on the poop deck, and walked around, and yeah. So when you've put this down, this edge here is wrong. When we come to build it, I will attempt to correct it, but this actually should be a lot higher. It had really high walls to stop snipers getting in, because the officers would have been on this deck, because it's the best point of visibility, and they would have been conducting any fighting from this deck. There also would have been a lot of Marines on there. This would have been very busy when in battle. We've got the rudder going in, and then we've got the stern galleries going in, lots of detail painting there. We'll talk about the rudder when we're looking at the plastic parts. Step 8, and we've got 2 ship's boats to go in. I seem to remember the 2 different sizes, but we'll check that out when we do look at the plastic. That's far less than the number that she actually would carry, and certainly less than what you get when you walk around the ship today. So there should be an admiral's barge, a cutter, and various different sizes of boats for different uses. But we get 2. You could always stack them on top of each other if you can get some more, but it gives you a good representation. You can add some details to this. They would have ordinarily had like a canvas cover over the top. So if you don't want to show off lots of oars, which also need to be nicely detail painted, you could put a canvas over them, and failing that, you could just lash them down or do one with a cover and one without, so you get a view. Now, interestingly, originally when Victory was first designed, because she got remodelled, her stern gallery was open, and this section from here to here actually there was no deck at all. You had ladders that went down to the lower deck, and then you had to go back up to this section. And when she got refitted, they put these walkways in and then allowed the ship's boats to be stored on there, creating a lot more space on the gun deck lower down. So yeah, interesting modification done before Trafalgar. We've got some metal railings going in, and we'll talk about those later on as well. And then in step 9, we're adding the bowsprit, and we've got our booms here, cat heads going in, the figurehead going on, and more bits. And then we've got this little walkway that walks you out onto the bowsprit there, so you can get from that upper deck straight onto the bowsprit. And this area is like a grill. You've got a grating, and then I don't know if you can see just there, we'll show it on the plastic part, there's a little round semicircular round bit. That's the toilet at the head of the ship. Step 10, and we're adding the lanterns on the back there. 3 lanterns. Centre one should be a larger one than the other 2. And then we've got these posts which stick out of the rear there for slinging a ship's boat off. That was a later addition. She didn't have those at Trafalgar, so you don't need to add those, but there is some whopping great location pinholes that you're going to have to fill if you choose not to put them in. Okay, that gets us to step 9. Oh, sorry, step 10. So now we're on step 11. Now, step 11 is busy, and you've got the 3 masts going in, and you've got additional detail going onto the bowsprit to extend it, put the yards on. So the masts are broken down as they are on the real ship. You've got lower, middle and upper sections with your spotting tops. And you've got plastic parts to allow the shrouds to be put on. The masts themselves locate with a locating pin. Now obviously on the real thing they're actually slung there, and then you've got parabol beads that allow you to swing it around and traverse it, so like an early form of bearing, if you like. So you could, at this scale it will be difficult to emulate that. You could certainly do the rope work, but it'd be difficult to do the parabol beads. I'm not saying it's impossible. It needs some thought at this scale. But certainly if you've got a bigger one, the Hella 100, for example, you can do it. So yeah, we're building up all those. That they're roughly all the same. The only thing that varies is the size and the length of the masts there. And you can see those little booms going on top of the mast. Those are the extenders, so that you can put extension sails on for more speed. On the main mast in the middle there, we have a lantern as well, which helps cast light down onto the ship. We're also putting in our flagstaff at the rear there, flagstaff at the front, but also putting in the guns. So they show you a picture just on the fold. You've got the cannon, and then you've got the opening, the door for the opening, you can see there. And it does say here that it's optional. You can have it cannons out or the doors shut. I can't understand why anyone would build it with the gun ports closed. So for me, it's cannons out all the way. She's absolutely bristling with them, so why not? And they should all be different sizes, because there's different weights on different decks. They should be heavier at the bottom for stability, and get steadily lighter as they go up. Again, these two arms for slinging ships' boats, later additions, not to be built on the Trafalgar version of the model. But you've got a nice way of building up the masts, which is going to allow you to put any additional rope work on that you might want to, and make it look a little bit more authentic. So actually a really, really busy step 11. Then as we go to step 12, we're effectively finishing the build. So the last thing they add on is the 4 anchors, which are slung from this part here, where you've got the foremast shrouds. They are actually roped on, so you could have a look at that, and there should be obviously anchor rope going from the anchor, the first anchor, to the hawse pipes at least. So do your research, understand the rigging and the rope work, and then you can get that sorted. Step 13, it's about placing the ratline pattern. So they're pre-done for you in this kit. In later kits you had a little plastic device where you made them yourself, but actually these look fairly good. Place ratlines on pattern and cut where necessary. So it's this dotted line here is where you're cutting the shrouds off. And it says for better adhesion, scrape ends of ratlines to bare cotton on the inside. So they're coated. I'll show you them in a minute. They're supposed to look tarred, and we'll have that conversation. So that's step 13. Step 14 is your paint instructions. And you've got a little sheet here which is referencing the sails. You've got some written instructions here, and then you've got the old way of doing it when in black and white print, of different patterns for different colours to give you an idea. So copper bottom, then you've got what's that? That's black. Then buff they've used for the stripes, and also for the masts there, which is correct, but they don't show the mast tops, so you're not seeing what colour should be the spotting tops, which are actually black. Then it's showing these booms that stick out. I painted them black when I built the kit as a kid, but it's showing them as being brown on here because they were removable, but like I say, they're a later addition and you shouldn't include them on this build for Trafalgar. Then step 15, they're talking about 3 different threads. So a cotton, a thicker thread, and then a thin string. So I guess originally they were included in the kit, though they weren't in this kit when I got them, but other kits have got them. But you've basically got running rigging and fixed rigging. The running rigging should be brown or natural. The fixed rigging should be black or brown. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We've got flags, and it's showing you the position of the flags. I'm guessing that's Nelson's message that every man is expected to do his duty for England, or whatever the exact message was, I can't remember. You've got the position of all of your sails here, so that's pretty cool. You have to punch little holes in and tie them on, which is an interesting task. And then you've got the position of all your rigging. But it doesn't tell you what is running rigging and what's not. It does tell you what is thin. And that actually looks like the fixed rigging. And then it's telling you, I'm looking for the thick one. The thick one is for the anchor rope, which you can see here, which looks like a chain, but it's not. And then the rest of it is this standard cotton. And that completes your build instructions.